Hi, I'm Olivia, and I have cervical dystonia. My journey started about a decade ago when I got a concussion, and then roughly a year and a half after that, I started getting daily headaches that morphed into migraines, and then eventually into neck pain as well. I saw a slew of different doctors who put me on different medications and things that just ultimately didn't work. I then was just dealing with new symptoms I had never dealt with, a journey of trying to figure out what was going on with me. I mostly dealt with eventually neck pain that was pulling all over. My muscles would get overused and then pull all over my skull, causing a tension headache that once I had a tension headache, it was really difficult to get it to stop. I saw several doctors and specialists who gave me at least 10 different diagnoses within a few years. So I started to place less weight on my diagnosis and just more on my symptoms and trying to figure out what was going on with me, and trying to figure out what worked just to make me feel like a normal human being who could live and go to work. But it was really difficult at that time, dealing with the daily pain. Even at low levels of achingness, it could ramp up really fast and start a tension headache or a migraine. Every day was about pain management. Every day I had to do my movement and my exercises and my techniques that limited the pain. Usually for me, it started with neck pain that it would be a dull ache that would just grow and grow and grow and eventually cover my entire skull. And pulling and stretching sensations. Any different day, I might have something different. I could have nausea from my throat muscles cramping up. I could have the tingling. It was confusing. It just really starts to take a toll on you mentally, or it takes a toll on me mentally. I really changed who I was, and I lost hope kind of for a lot of aspects of my life. I didn't feel like my dreams and things that I could achieve were possible anymore, because every day became about maintenance of pain and trying to feel okay. And that was really discouraging to me, and it made me feel like a completely different person. And I got prolotherapy in my neck, and that ended up puncturing a hole in my spinal column, and I was in the hospital for a week. And then that sent me to another specialist who did diagnose me with cervical dystonia. Also cervical instability, so I was still a little bit confused. He ended up going later, after more trial and error, ended up going the Botox route, which is a treatment for ligament damage as well as cervical dystonia. So starting in May of 2018, I started getting Botox, and it was incredible. It changed my life, Botox did. It was so helpful to be able to be symptom-free for roughly a month out of every 3 to 4 months. Nevertheless, it was sort of a Band-Aid, because what my doctor told me is, when I got a precise MRI of the area of my ligament damage, was that it was between a major nerve and what he called my lights out artery. So he said that if he was ever going to go in for treatment invasively, he'd go in knowing he was going to kill me. So that was swiftly off the table. And I knew that Botox was my only treatment option for the rest of my life. So that meant that every 3 to 4 months, I'd have to get Botox. And if you're here watching this right now, then you've probably dealt with chronic pain for a long time, and know that the pain, it sucks, of course, but you learn to deal with it. You learn to live with it. It's really the mental component, at least for me, of learning to understand who I was with pain in my life, how I changed, how I coped, how I turned inward and pushed people away. And that was the harder component to deal with than really the pain. And so even if I had this Botox, which was incredible, I still wasn't symptom free. I still had pain I was dealing with, every 2 months out of every 3, or maybe even when it was good, 1 out of every 4. But it was still hard, knowing that I would have to deal with this for the rest of my life. My last appointment with my doctor was in February of 2023. And at that appointment, he brought up Dr. Z's clinic, Northwest Functional Neurology. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of the clinic. I was a little confused. He mentioned there was a potential treatment option for cervical dystonia, and Again, at that point, I hadn't really placed a lot of weight on my diagnosis of cervical dystonia, so I didn't know how they could actually help me. Looking into it, you first get to have a consultation with Dr. Zielinski, and I was able to do that, and he listened to my story and what I was dealing with and validated everything I had to say and thought that he could treat me, which was something that I hadn't ever heard from any doctor before. Most other doctors made me feel like a medical anomaly, where they didn't know what I was dealing with and they didn't really try to know what I was dealing with. So I looked up on their website what Northwest Functional Neurology deals with, and they have a page on cervical dystonia, and it was unlike anything else I had read on the internet. Every other page on cervical dystonia on the internet basically says it's a movement disorder and your treatment option is Botox, and that's it. And the Northwest Functional Neurology page described it in a much more clinical way that made me relate to what I was actually dealing with and understand the condition a lot more, especially the neurological component, which I hadn't ever read before. So recognizing that, yes, it's a movement disorder, and yes, I have ligament damage, but there could be a treatment option was kind of mind-blowing. I hadn't ever accepted that there was another treatment option. So after talking to Dr. Z, I came into the clinic, and the first day was a diagnostic exam where he was up front with me and saying that, we'll go through the diagnostics and we'll let you know whether or not we think we can help you. So that was comforting to know that, I'm not just saying another doctor, another person who says, try this for 2-3 months and then we'll see where it goes. They figure out whether or not they can help you or not, and they know what they're doing, and they validate what you've been through in a way that no other doctor has before. So I felt I trusted the team, and I felt comfortable going through this process with them, and I decided to do the week-long intensive therapy, and it changed my life. I can say with perfect honesty that I feel way better than I have in over a decade. I started to feel a little bit better every day. I was giving these daily exercises that were confusing to me. I didn't really understand how they actually would help me. But I stayed consistent, and I was getting results. I felt a lot better. I didn't deal with the daily symptoms that I usually deal with. And part of that I knew could have been the Botox still in action, but as time went on, I didn't get another set of injections. So I knew that whatever these exercises were doing, it was working. It was no longer the Botox. It was clearly what the intensive therapy as well as the exercises were doing was working. I am now more than 6 months out from my last bout of Botox, which is the longest I've ever been since first getting it in 2018. And my symptoms have virtually faded. Every time I get a pulling or aching sensation in my neck, which is rare, but when I do get those sensations, I do my daily exercise and the symptoms dissipate. I do not feel pain. It never grows enough to the point of a tension headache. It'll start as a dull ache in my cervical spine, and I do my exercises and the pain is gone. So it's truly amazing. I don't fully understand it still, but it works. It completely works. So I am amazed, and I'm so thrilled. I have hope again, and I am so immensely grateful to the Dr. Z and his team here at Northwest Functional Neurology. I didn't know that this was possible for me, and I highly recommend, if you are dealing with anything like cervical dystonia, give Dr. Z and his team a chance. You won't be disappointed. Thanks.